Hey Sakshi, Telugu Prajala Manasakshi, welcome to Special Immigration Show. Today we are back with our expert attorney Bhanu B. Lindra Garu, BBI Law Group PCs, with 17 years of experience in law offices. And మీకు ఎవరైనా సరే మీకు ఎలాంటి ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ కావాలన్నా ఇమిగ్రేషన్ గురించి సలహాలు సూచనలు కావాలన్నా లైవ్ షో కాల్ చేయొచ్చు. అలాగే బిఫోర్ వి బిగిన్ ది షో ప్లీజ్ నోట్ ద ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ప్రొవైడ్ ఆన్ దిస్ నాట్ illegal advice, it's just for information purpose only. So Sakshi TV or its agents will not be responsible for this. If you need any specific legal advice, please contact the attorney directly. And before we get into the topic, and Bhanu garu unnaru మాట్లాడిద్దాం. Hello Bhanu garu, welcome to the show అండి.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you very much, Andy Prasanna garu. Thanks for inviting me again to the show.
ఎస్ భాను గారు, సో మనం లా ఆఫీస్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ గురించి అండ్ ఆల్సో ప్రాక్టీస్ ఏరియాస్ గురించి మా వ్యూయర్స్ కి మరొకసారి తెలియజేస్తారా?
Sure, madam. Thank you very much. And my name is Bhanu Ilindra Andy. I'm an immigration attorney. I've been practicing exclusively in US immigration laws for 17 years. And my law firm name is BBI Law Group PC Andy. We are located in Herndon, Virginia, which is basically Washington, D.C. suburbs, basically. And we represent in all types of immigration matters. We represented in thousands of matters till now. And basically, we represent in employment-based immigration, family-based immigration matters, and also investor visas, even other types of visas like F1s, L1s, basically, whatnot. Every type of immigration matter we represent in now from our firm, basically. And we have clients across the country, basically, representing all these matters, And any details about my firm, basically, they can visit our website, www.bbilawgroup.com. And they can also reach us for any questions they have through email or through by phone or even through our website also, basically. Our phone number is 703-496-7722. Our email is bhanu@bbilawgroup.com. Or they can also reach at contact@bbilawgroup.com. And that's what it is, basically. And yeah, I started this firm in 2008. By God's blessing, it's been 13 years now since I started firm. Now we are 20-member firm, basically. Hopefully, we'll be growing even more and doing better service for all our clients and also the prospective clients in the future.
Yes. So, Bhanugar, today's topic is priority dates and interfiling of I-485s and portability of I-485s, and also update on suspension of biometric requirements for H4 and also L2s. So, before we get into today's topic, do we have any latest updates in this week?
The latest update, ma'am, is basically about I think one of the topics is about the latest updates, basically in this, that this week, on Wednesday, basically, the Department of State actually released the visa bulletin for June 2021, which has seen a significant movement in the immigrant visas availability for Indian nationals, especially in EB2 category and EB3 category. In EB2 category, the priority dates have moved forward to December 1, 2010, whereas for EB3 category to November 1, 2011, basically. That's a significant movement. Because in last month it was around 2nd of February, it's around February 2011 for the EB3 category. Now it moved to almost to November 2011, which is almost like a 9 months forward movement, which is a amazing, significant forward movement. This is what we're anticipating for the past several months because of the COVID-19 pandemic. We know that consulates abroad are not issuing the family-based green cards, basically, and also many employment-based green cards also have not been issued because of the COVID-19 pandemic abroad. And all those numbers are being available now. The advantage of that is because those members are being assigned to the employment-based category, and we are seeing this significant rapid movement in the priority dates for the EB2 category and EB3 category for Indian nationals. I'm very positive that this movement is going to continue for the next few months because of the situation across the world with the COVID-19 pandemic. Still the consulates in many countries are not open fully and not issuing the green cards or immigrant visas over there. Therefore, basically, we are going to see the significant forward movement in those dates. So that is the latest update news, which is basically which we have in this week. And obviously, in this week or in the last week also, USCIS, we are going to talk about the H4s, suspension of biometrics also, basically. USCIS came forward last week and then announced that from May 17th onwards, basically, the biometrics for H4s and L2s is temporarily suspended for 2 years because they think that it's not due to the inconveniences they have right now, this is temporarily suspending because they can still verify the identity of the individuals who are applying for those benefits through other means, basically. And they want to see how it goes for 2 years and see, basically, if not required after 2 years, they're going to permanently remove that requirement, basically. But right now, it is temporarily suspended for 2 years, which we're going to talk later as per the topic in our conversation today.
Yes, Bhanugar, sure. Yes, మీరు చెప్పినట్టే మనం today we're going to talk about I-485s and also update on suspension of H4s and L2s also. So my first question is, what is interfiling I-485?
Okay. The interfiling of I-485 actually means, ma'am, very simple thing I will tell you, in employment-based category, okay? USCIS technically it calls as a transfer of underlying basis, basically. In short form, we call it as a TUB, TUB, or interfiling, basically. What it means, basically, it's a process or a procedure that allows an individual to basically request USCIS to adjudicate their I-485 application, adjustment of status application, in conjunction with a different I-140 petition or an I-130 petition, family-based petition, if it has been filed on their behalf. For example, what I'm trying to say is basically is that if an individual, for example, individual ki I-140 petition undi, దాంతో పాటు I-130 పిటిషన్ కూడా ఉందనుకుందాం, బేసికలీ ఫ్యామిలీ బేస్డ్ పిటిషన్ ఉందనుకుందాం, లేదా I-140 రెండు డిఫరెంట్ పిటిషన్స్ ఉన్నాయి అనుకుందాం, EB2 కేటగిరీలో, EB3 కేటగిరీలో, బేసికలీ. ఇప్పుడు ఈ యొక్క పర్సన్, లెట్స్ అజ్యూమ్ దట్ he filed his labor certification based upon the priority days available for the EB2 category or EB3 category, and he filed his 485 based upon that. But later on, while this case is pending, EB2 priority date has become current for that I-140, or his priority date for family-based immigrant petition has become current, basically. What an individual can do is basically is that individual can actually request in writing, either by email or by mail or whatever the possibility manners it's possible with the USCIS, to actually interfile. It's called transfer of underlying basis in the USCIS legal terms, basically. But it's what it's called is interfile that 485 to another I-140 and adjudicate his 485 accordingly and approve his adjustment and approve his or her adjustment of status application, basically. Okay? That's what it means, basically. And that means if you have a multiple I-140s for you, which has a different preference categories, basically, both will have same priority date because you can retain priority date for for those petitions, basically. So if they have a different preference classifications, basically, and if one classification is moving forward, they're adjudicating cases faster in that, but your case has been filed with another category, you can actually ask to move your 485 to adjudicate with the another 140 or I-130, basically. That's what it is, interfiling is.
Okay.
You know?
So,
But
what is USCIS interfiling?
That's what it is, basically. What does it mean is basically is that you basically interfile with the USCIS. And there are several, we can talk about several scenarios, basically. And thing is basically is this, is interfiling is always permitted, basically. That is the question also come with USCIS. But what we have to do, what we have to see is basically we have to understand this. Interfiling adjudication by the USCIS is always a discretionary adjudication. What I mean to say is basically is that they have to, what I mean to say is basically is that it is not necessary that they will consider interfiling of your 485 application, basically, even though you have two I-140s pending for you, basically, or two I-140s or I-140, I-130 file for you, basically, okay? It doesn't mean that USCIS has to consider that interfiling for another I-140. It is always a discretionary process with the USCIS. If they want, they can consider that. If they don't want, they don't consider that, basically. But you have an option to make sure that you request that in interfiling. And several questions will come. As I told you, what kind of cases can interfile? For example, persons can ask basically only, see, there are several scenarios I'll explain, ma'am. For example, there is a wife and husband are there, basically, and they both have two different jobs, basically, right? And they both have been sponsored green card by their employers, right? Husband has been sponsored with the green card, and the wife also has been sponsored with the green card. They both have I-140 petitions, basically, right? When they both have I-140 petitions, and what happens is basically first wife's husband's priority date becomes current first. Wife's priority date doesn't become current, and then based upon the husband's priority date become current, they file 485. Husband files a 485 as a primary applicant, and the spouse files a 485 as a derivative applicant, basically, right? And then later on, what happens after a certain time, the wife's priority date becomes current, and wife's priority date is actually moving forward. I mean, the category in which wife's I-140 has been filed was moving forward very quickly. They can actually request the USCIS to interfile these 485s as the wife as a who is a derivative applicant as a primary applicant, and who is a primary applicant as a derivative applicant for the wife's I-140, and request to adjudicate that green card accordingly, basically. So there are several examples over there, you know.
Yes, Banu garu. Yes, మన caller readyగా ఉన్నారు. Ravi from California. Ravi, please go on. Hello? Ravi, can you hear me? Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, Banu garu maybe call drop అయింది. మనం next question కి వెళ్దాం. So, Banu garu, my question is, can old employer file I-485? Is that
Yes.
possible?
It is possible. I mean, as long as the employer, whether it's old or current or previous or current employer, if that employer is willing to hire him permanently once they get the green card, and the offer is still valid, basically, and they would like to still continue existing offer, and if the beneficiary is willing to take up that job, yes, absolutely, old employer can file that I-485.
Okay.
And, I mean, can allow the beneficiary to file I-485 based upon their I-140 petition. Yeah.
Okay. So, Banu garu, what happens if I-140 is denied? What is the consequences?
There are several reasons where I-140 can be denied, and also there are several stages also where I-140s can be denied, basically, right? I mean, one, basically, initially when you file I-140, they can deny right over there for several reasons. Like, for example, the I-140 petition has an inherent deficiency, like proper position was not filed, or proper information has not been provided, or the beneficiary doesn't qualify for that position, or something like that. And those are the inherent deficiencies in the I-140 petition. And there are certain other deficiencies, which are technical deficiencies, which is like ability to pay and all those things, basically. Okay, there are several reasons why I-140 can be denied. It can be denied in the beginning only, basically, right? But later on, sometimes what happens is I-140 is approved, basically, with the USCIS, and then later, after a certain time, depending upon which stage sometimes beneficiary might have filed 485, a beneficiary might have not filed 485 also, basically, right? But later stage, if the USCIS comes to know that I-140 has been approved erroneously, either because of the error by the USCIS or because of the fraud or misrepresentation by the beneficiary, basically, or by the employer, you know, or they found some inherent deficient in the petition which should not have been approved because of that inherent deficiency in the petition, basically, then the USCIS can actually revoke that petition. In reality, the revocation of I-140 petition actually results in the same result as denial of I-140 petition, basically, you know, and so that's where that's what can happen, basically, right? Consequences, right? There are different consequences. For example, if somebody is actually completing a 6 years H-1B petition, 6 years H-1B status in this country, and if the I-140 petition gets denied without approving or pending for 180 days, if it gets denied, they may not be eligible for the 7th year extension, basically. Okay. That means if they want to continue staying in this country, they may not be able to get H-1B extension. They may have to leave the country for 1 year and then again go to the cap quota and everything, and then come back to the USCIS on a new quota H-1B petition, basically. So that is a disadvantage which they will have. Second disadvantage is basically is that if the I-140 is denied, obviously they cannot retain the priority date, which basically priority date means the date which the labor certification has been filed for the green card processing, and that priority date cannot be retained. Especially we know with the visa numbers non-availability and everything, with Indian nationals being oversubscribed, The problems getting a green card is people are waiting for several years to get a green cards, right? So priority date plays a very huge role for them to see where they stand in the line to get a green card. So those things will be missed if the I-140 gets denied, basically, right?
Right, Bhanu Garu. We have a caller, Ravi from California. Ravi, please go on.
Hello, hi, Bhanu Garu.
Hello.
Yes, please.
Yeah, hello. Hi. I'm on OPT and in STEM OPT with Nano.
Ravi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I think some technical issue. Maybe
Hello?
it's time for a small announcement. And for any legal immigration services, and if you need any specific legal advice, you can contact Bhanu Garu, and firm name is BPI Law Group. Phone number is 7034967722, and email is bhanu@bpilawgroup.com. Website is www.bpilawgroup.com, and he's always ready to help you guys. So you can call him. Hello.
Thank you.
I think Ravi is
Hello?
back to line.
Can you hear me?
Ravi,
Hello? Hello?
hello.
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
yes. Bhanu Garu, can you hear Ravi Garu voice?
No, I cannot.
Okay.
Hello?
Yeah, please make sure. I think some technical issue ఉంది. రవి గారి వాయిస్ నాకు వినిపిస్తుంది, భాను గారికి వినిపించట్లేదు. యా, భాను గారు మనం నెక్స్ట్ క్వశ్చన్ లోకి వెళ్దాం. భాను గారు, సో ఇఫ్ I-485 be denied after I-140 approval, then what happens, Bhanu garu?
I-485 can be denied after I-140 approval for several reasons. For example, there could be error in filing I-485 petition, or there could be an issue with the beneficiary, basically whether he's maintaining valid status or not, whether he truthfully stated all the information or not. All those issues will come basically in I-485 adjudication. Whether he has any criminal record but doesn't have any criminal record. If any criminal record is there, is he admissible or inadmissible into the United States basically, or is he removable from the United States? All those factors can come into existence for I-485 denial. Sometimes I-485s can be denied for erroneously also by the USCIS. If the I-485 is denied, you always have an option to file for motion to reopen and reconsider I-485, or basically, or file an appeal for I-485 basically. If there is a violation of the AP Administrative Procedure Act also in denial of these I-485s, then obviously you can approach the courts also basically to fight on this case and everything. As there's always a possibility, any petition or any application we are filing with the USCIS for seeking a benefit, that can be always denied by the USCIS basically.
Okay. So, Bhanu garu, as you said earlier, both wife and husband and spouse EB2, EB3 categories lo file cheyochu ani chepparu. And my question is, a single applicant both EB2 and EB3 categories lo file cheyocha?
Change.
Okay.
There are no restrictions for anybody to file in both categories. EB2 lo file cheyochu, EB3 lo file cheyochu, EB1 lo kuda file cheyochu if they're eligible for the EB1 also. There is no limit on that.
Right. We have another caller, Andy, Charlotte nunchi, Parthu. Parthu, please go on.
Hello, are you able to hear me?
Hello?
Hello, నా మాట వినిపిస్తుందా మీకు?
Parthu?
Hello. యా హలో, నేను లైన్ లో ఉన్నానండి, మీకు వినిపిస్తుందా?
Yes అండి, భాను గారు మీకు వినిపిస్తుందా అండి?
లేదండి, I'm unable to hear you.
No, actually. Hello?
Maybe
Yeah,
you can ask.
టెక్నికల్ ఇష్యూ ఉంది, ఓన్లీ వాయిస్ నాకు మాత్రమే రీచ్ అవుతుంది. భాను గారు, మనం క్వశ్చన్స్ కంటిన్యూ చేద్దాం టాపిక్. Yeah. So, Bhanu garu, how long does I-485 take after I-140 approval? ఎంత టైం పట్టొచ్చు maximum?
If the priority dates are current, everything is current. What I've seen is around 8 to 9 months, basically.
Okay.
And in some cases 6 to 7 months. But it all depends upon being your priority dates current and everything, and also what is the workload USCIS has in their plate at the time, and how many cases are pending with the USCIS and all those things. Because we all know that USCIS adjudicates the cases based upon the FIFO basis, that is first in first out basis law. So evaru mundar file chestaru valla cases mundar adjudicate chestundi basically USCIS. So it depends upon all the workload, when you do file the pay case, and all those factors will come. But as I said, if the priority dates are current and everything. Expecting from 8 months to 1 year is very reasonable period of time to adjudicate I-485 cases.
Okay. So, Bhanugaru, let's discuss about some H4 biometrics topic. And so, biometrics topic 2 years suspend చేశారు కాబట్టి then what happens now?
Now, good thing about that is basically now USCIS cannot blame anybody why the delay in adjudicating H4 and L2 applications basically filed by the dependent family members basically, right? Probably now it will create a channel for them to clear the pipeline that has been pending for a long period of time, basically. You know, what they can do is that they can clear the pipeline and hopefully they'll be able to adjudicate these H4 applications fast. And if they can adjudicate the H4 applications, then automatically they can approve the H4 EADs also, basically. Several people are waiting for several months, like some people are waiting for more than a year to get the H4 approval and H4 EAD approval also. And people are losing the jobs also basically, and people are actually unable to renew their licenses also while H4 is pending and everything. See, in a family, if somebody have the kids and they have to take them to school, they can't take them to school because they don't have a driver's license. They can't drive the car because they don't have a driver's license. That's basically very lots of personal inconveniences caused to people because of the timely not adjudicating these H4 applications. Second thing is basically is that one, we hope that we'll get back to the normal processing times which have been passed before biometric requirements have been done. And second thing is probably they will also implement when we file premium processing, H1B and H4, they're going to adjudicate concurrently H4 also along with the H1B petition in premium processing. Because now biometrics are not required, I think they should be able to go back to that old policy and adjudicate those cases and everything properly, you know? And if there are a lot of things USS can do, but nothing is guaranteed how fast these cases are going to be adjudicated. But we're hoping at least we're going to see the improvement in coming months, not immediately, but in coming months.
Okay. So, Bhanugaru, is it applicable for H4 EAD also or only H4 only?
The biometrics are applicable only for H4. H4 EADs does not require biometrics, basically, you know? And now, because that's why the whole problem is they can't approve H4 EAD unless H4 is approved, right? So, because of the biometrics, they're not adjudicating H4s, therefore they're not adjudicating H4 EADs also. Now, which they can do, what they can do is basically is that they can approve H4s and they can approve H4 EADs also. In that way, these people who have been staying in this country as immigrants for several years because they did not get their green card is in line waiting for green card, you know, they will be able to work in this country based upon that.
Right, Bhanugaru, we have a caller, Charlotte Nunchi, Pardhu Garu. Pardhu.
హలో అండి, వినిపిస్తుందా?
Yes.
Yeah, hello Bhanugaru. I have a question. Now EB2 priority date December 2015. So do you recommend that I downgrade now or wait till October? That's my question number one. Question number two is what if my I-140 approval is pending when filing dates are current in October 2021? Can I file I-485 with a pending I-140 approval?
ఓకే అండి. భానుగారు, పార్థు గారు అడుగుతున్నారు I-140 పెండింగ్ లో ఉన్నప్పుడు కరెంట్ డేట్స్ అక్టోబర్ 2020 ఉన్నాయి, సో ఫైల్ చేయొచ్చా అని అడుగుతున్నారు. మీరేం చెప్తారు?
అర్థం కాలేదండి, నాకు అర్థం కాలేదు.
I-140 పెండింగ్, స్టిల్ పెండింగ్ లో ఉంది అండ్ కరెంట్ డేట్ వచ్చేసి అక్టోబర్ 2020 లో ఉంది.
కరెంట్ డేట్ ఏంటండి? ఆయన EB1 C లో ఉన్నాడు.
I think EB1.
EB1 C లో. Yeah, I can file 485 concurrently while I-140 is pending.
Okay. Yeah.
The priority is available for him if he filed I-140 in October 2020, and if the priority is available for him, he should be able to file concurrently 485. It's all about availability of priority date for him. If it is available, he should be able to.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Now another caller, Gautam. Gautam?
Okay.
Hello? Hello?
Hello? Yeah, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
please go on.
No, I'm still here. Hello?
I'm sorry, Gautam. I can't hear properly.
I have question regarding a perm My perm is just filed. My H1B max out is in August end. Can there be a request, special request that I can get some
I can't
extension
hear
beyond
you
my max
properly
out
అండి
date?
గౌతమ్ గారు క్లియర్ గా లేదు, వాయిస్ చాలా బ్రేక్ అవుతుంది అండ్ నేను భాను గారికి కూడా కన్వే చేయలేను. యా, సో భాను గారు ఐ థింక్ సమ్ టెక్నికల్ ఇష్యూస్, బట్ కాలర్స్ మనకు కంటిన్యూస్ గా వస్తూనే ఉన్నారు. చిన్న టెక్నికల్ గ్లిచ్ ఉంది అండ్ మనం టాపిక్ కంటిన్యూ చేద్దాం. So Banu garu, will concurrent filing of I-485 result in a faster grant of permanent resident status?
Concurrent filing of I-485 along with I-140 is a facility for you to make sure that you are basically able to be in the line to get your adjustment of status done. What does it mean is basically is that they cannot issue a green card for you unless your priority dates become current and unless they process your I-485 and it is ready to issue a green card for you basically. But filing it concurrently allows you to stay in this country as long as your adjustment of status application is pending with the USCIS. So basically, of course, they can still may place you in removal proceedings for some issues, but still you have a defense against them, basically saying that the defense is that your adjustment of status application is pending with the USCIS, therefore you cannot be removed from this country under those circumstances, basically. But what allows you is basically is that it allows you to stay in this country. It gives you work authorization also, and which allows you to work based upon that adjustment of status application, basically. So that's why it's always better to file I-485 as early as possible, because you'll be able to work for anybody because it's your own work authorization. You're not dependent upon any employer, basically, right? So that's the thing which will be good for you, basically, if you can. Possibilities are to file I-485.
Right. Thank you, Banu. It's time for small announcement. And if you have any legal immigration questions and also if you need any specific legal advice, you can contact Banu Garu through phone number 7034967722 and email banu@bpalawgroup.com, website www.bpalawgroup.com, and he's always ready to help you guys. So you can call him right now. And Banu Garu, thank you so much for joining us. And manaki enno questions తెలియజేసి and మనం ఈ రోజు కాలర్స్ క్వశ్చన్స్ వినలేకపోయాము ఒక చిన్న టెక్నికల్ గ్లిచ్ వల్ల. నెక్స్ట్ వీక్ మనం కంటిన్యూ చేద్దాం టాపిక్. థ్యాంక్ యూ సో మచ్ ఫర్ బీయింగ్ హియర్.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Thank you very much once again. And thank you very much for the Sakshi team for inviting me back and everything. And all of you be safe, and take care of yourselves, especially in India. Things are being really bad. My family, I'm the one we suffered it, basically. We've gone through that sufferance. We don't want everybody to go through that. All of you be safe and take care. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Banu garu. You too. Thank you. Take care. Please take care of yourself. And ఇది వాళ్ళ స్పెషల్ ఇమిగ్రేషన్ షో. నెక్స్ట్ ఎపిసోడ్ లో మరో టాపిక్ తో మళ్ళీ కలుద్దాం. స్టే ట్యూన్ టు సాక్షి, తెలుగు ప్రజల మన సాక్షి. నమస్తే.